They said my bridge was an eyesore. The next morning, it was gone, bulldozed without warning, nothing left but splinters drifting on the lake. They thought they'd embarrassed me, proved their power. But what they didn't know, that bridge wasn't just wood. It was the key holding their entire lake together. My name's Jack Turner. I'm an engineer who spent half his life designing water systems for other people. When my father passed away, I bought back the lake cabin where we used to fish. It came with a small island garden and a narrow bridge Dad and I had built together: oak boards, iron rails, solid craftsmanship. For years, the neighborhood was peaceful. Then the High Ridge Lake HOA moved in with glossy brochures and new standards. Suddenly our quiet shore became a playground for investors. Heading the charge was Linda Graves, the kind of person who measures power in paperwork. She smiled with her teeth but not her eyes. On day one she told me, that bridge doesn't need community aesthetics. You'll need to remove it. I laughed politely. Linda, that bridge is older than your HOA. Her smile thinned. Rules apply to everyone. After that, letters started arriving: warnings about unapproved structures, threats of fines, inspections I never asked for. I stayed calm. I'd worked with regulators before, they bluster, then move on. But Linda wasn't just enforcing rules, she was building an empire of control. One morning I walked down to the water and noticed orange paint marks on my bridge's supports. Survey work, the tag said. My stomach turned. She was planning something big. It happened on a Thursday. I woke to the growl of machinery. Through the window, I saw excavators on my shoreline and men in reflective vests tearing up the bridge like it was trash. I sprinted out barefoot. Hey! That's private property. Linda stood there with a clipboard, calm as a queen. Mr. Turner, your structure violates HOA safety codes. We're removing it. You can't. She held up a printed notice. Voted unanimously last night. You were invited. Invited? I never received anything. Within an hour the bridge that linked my land to my father's island was gone, piles of splintered timber and rusted bolts scattered along the shore. I knelt beside the wreckage. The air smelled of mud and fuel. In the distance Linda called to her crew, make sure it's leveled clean. He'll thank us later. That afternoon I noticed something else: the water line near the demolition site was lower, swirling strangely. The bridge had anchored a small flow control gate, part of an old system my dad built to keep the lake's level steady. Without that balance, the current had nowhere to go but down. I told Linda she'd damaged a crucial support. She shrugged. If your father installed unlicensed equipment, that's on you. By sunset, half the cove looked different: mud patches where lily pads used to be. I took photos of everything, heart pounding. That night, I sat at my father's old drafting table, tracing the blueprint of the dam system. A thought hit me hard: Linda hadn't just destroyed a bridge, she'd tampered with the very mechanism that kept the HOA's luxury homes afloat. I spent the weekend gathering records. Old deeds, engineering permits, property maps, all stored in a metal box my dad labeled "Keep Forever." There it was in faded ink: Turner property line includes water flow control valve. That valve sat beneath where the bridge used to stand, squarely on my land. Which meant everything tied to the lake's drainage was legally mine. Monday morning, I met with a county clerk. She confirmed it. Yep, the HOA can't modify or manage that valve without your permission. I smiled for the first time in days. Back home, I reviewed drone footage of the demolition and filed a formal complaint with Environmental Services. Linda thought she'd buried me in red tape, she'd just handed me evidence. 2 weeks later, HOA members started complaining on social media: why's the water dropping? My dock's tilting. Linda replied publicly, blaming unpredictable weather patterns. But the local forecast showed steady rain. The truth was simple: without the bridge's structure, the water leaked through the weakened spillway. I repaired what I could, reinforcing the mechanism so it wouldn't burst. My fix kept the lake safe, but it also gave me full control of the valve. That night I walked the shoreline, lantern in hand. The reflection of mansion lights shimmered on the surface. They looked peaceful, oblivious. I whispered, "Dad, maybe it's time they learn what respect for water really means." Summer arrived with its usual parade of HOA events, boat shows, garden tours, and the annual lake gala. Linda loved that one. It was her stage. I kept quiet, polite at meetings, nodding when she bragged about beautifying the community. Meanwhile, I repaired the bridge's foundation in secret, installing a new maintenance hatch directly above the valve, fully legal, fully mine. The weekend before the gala, a heavy storm rolled in. Rain hammered the roofs, and runoff swelled the lake. Perfect timing. At dawn, I checked the gauges. Pressure rising, safe but high. The HOA ignored my warnings to limit boat traffic. They wanted glamour shots for their newsletter. I didn't sabotage anything, I simply stopped compensating for their negligence. I locked the valve at its legally documented setting, nothing more, nothing less. Nature handled the rest. By noon, the water overflowed its usual banks, flooding the manicured lawns of the nearest mansions. By evening, the other end of the lake, the side Linda had overdredged, was bone dry. Boats tilted sideways, docks cracked, fish flopped helplessly in puddles. The next morning social media exploded. What happened to High Ridge Lake? Neighbors panicked. Linda organized an emergency meeting on her patio, now 3 feet above mud. I watched from my porch, sipping coffee. For the first time, silence replaced her usual confidence. By midday, the HOA convoy arrived at my gate, SUVs, clipboards, panic. Linda marched up, shoes caked in mud. "What did you do, Jack?" "Nothing illegal," I said evenly. "Just maintaining my property." "You drained the lake." I pointed to the county map pinned to my door. Correction, the HOA destroyed a stabilizing structure on private land. The lake adjusted accordingly. She waved papers in my face. "We'll sue. Be my guest." I handed her a flash drive, videos of her demolition, dated permits, every email she'd ever sent threatening fines. "I've already forwarded these to the county engineer and the Environmental Bureau." Her jaw tightened. "You think this will end well for you?" "Linda, it already has. You wanted control. You got consequences." Behind her, reporters gathered. Someone had tipped off the local news. Cameras clicked as HOA members shouted over one another. A county inspector arrived, verified the documents, and declared the HOA responsible for unauthorized destruction of flood control equipment. Fines followed, massive ones. Insurance companies refused coverage due to willful negligence. Within weeks, restoration costs drained the HOA's reserves. The mansions they'd used as symbols of prestige sat high and dry, literally. Linda resigned, claiming health reasons. No one believed her. As for me, I reopened the valve slowly, letting the lake refill under supervision. Nature's rhythm returned. Autumn settled in quietly. The new HOA board, humbled and cooperative, visited my property with coffee and apologies. "Mr. Turner," said the new president, "we'd like to rebuild your bridge properly this time." I agreed on one condition: the structure would remain mine, exempt from any future HOA control. They signed without hesitation. A month later, the bridge stood again, stronger, gleaming in the morning light. I placed my father's old brass plaque back where it belonged: "Respect the water it remembers." Neighbors who once ignored me now waved as they passed. Some asked about engineering tips, others just wanted to fish near the island again. Linda's mansion eventually sold at a loss. Rumors said she moved inland: no lakes, no boards, no bridges. Sometimes I walked the new bridge at dusk, listening to the creak of fresh timber and the steady hum of the current below. The lake is calm, balanced, alive. It reminds me of something my dad used to say. "Water's honest, son. You block it, it finds another way." People should learn from that. He was right. The HOA tried to control everything: the look of the houses, the height of the trees, even the water. But the lake, like life, doesn't bend to ego. It answers only to respect. Power built on control never lasts. The HOA thought they owned beauty because they could regulate it. They learned the hard way that ownership without understanding leads to ruin. They destroyed my bridge to prove authority. I restored balance to remind them, real strength doesn't shout, it flows. So if anyone tries to tear down what you've built, stay patient, stay smart. Because eventually, arrogance drains itself dry.